So for this year's calendar, we wanted to do something really special, and Joey came up with the idea to travel the world. We all sat down as a team and we decided to celebrate cultures through makeup.
Organising the project was the hardest part, so we spent mostly 8 months organising accommodation, flights, planning out the whole budget, looking for models.
For me, the first thing to start with was looking at each individual country, looking at the art that is celebrated there.
The main thing I was looking forward to was the fact that we got to see so many different cultures.
Yeah, it's just an amazing opportunity to go and shoot all these locations in such a short space of time.
The first stop of the tour was the Niagara Falls. It was raining, the model cancelled, everything went wrong in the first 5 minutes, and we felt like we want to cancel the entire trip.
So finally managing to source a model, I think at around 1 a.m. We had an early start. This particular look for me was about showing that kind of coldness, but the power of water and ice, and using a combination of our Shimmer and Event products and Glamour Glow and glitters, and kind of layering them and mixing them to give an almost kind of three-dimensional surface to the skin. The actual history of its creation was from the Ice Age, and as the ice began to melt and we kind of began to evolve as a planet, this huge kind of cliff fell down and created the cavern that is now Niagara Falls. And I thought that was a beautiful kind of way to reflect this look and make this kind of iconic goddess of ice that had the vulnerability of man.
So we have that saying in Germany that anything is possible in New York City.
The thing that I notice every time I'm in New York is the Art Deco influences and how the city was kind of created in that era. It was such an exciting, glamorous time, the 20s, that I just kind of wanted to reflect that within this look. Just that kind of, that beauty and that elegance that you get with a 1920s makeup, and having the kind of the translucent skin which we kind of achieved using the Shimmer and Event foundations underneath the HD creams. And then I love the contrast of having like a real deep red as well, and the black smoky eye. For me, 20s is just a beautiful, elegant look, so it was so nice to do my version of that. felt the presence straight away as soon as you arrived there.
Well, Tikal is this historical, incredible place of Mayan culture and history. We really wanted to capture a look inspired by that.
So the entire team was trekking through the jungle, and we just had the amazing chance to experience the bright wildlife of Tikal.
I loved the stories of the Mayans and their history and their culture and the temple, and I wanted to really celebrate that and create my version of this kind of Mayan goddess. We used actually a gelatin cast, which is not a usual product that you would use to cast anything from, but I used the gelatin to create my negative, and then used Artex actually into the mould to create the final piece, and on top then painted with the super colours to create that kind of antique-y kind of feel.
So over the years of working with Kryolan, I've always been absolutely fascinated by gel effects. You know, it's normally used for special effects, but I really wanted to put it into like a fashion element on the dress.
Everywhere you looked, it was just full of colour. It was so rich. It just made everything back home seem kind of really grey, because everywhere you looked there was explosions of colour. One of my favourite all-time artists is Frida Kahlo, and in that particular area of the world she's celebrated everywhere. I wanted the model to appear like a two-dimensional image on the 3D background of the street, and that was kind of derived from Frida Kahlo's work and the way she kind of painted and the way she used brushstrokes. We prepared the model in a salon there in Antigua, and it was such a hot day. We had the challenges of the model fainting where it was so hot and the dress was so heavy. On top of that, we was being filmed for a television program there at the same time. So the pressure of actually preparing that shoot was quite great.
We were creating live art on the dress, but I'm so used to using paint, especially on a dress, and I would normally have painted on a canvas, but it was so interesting to actually use these amazing products to create art.
Actually, I think time-wise we had a little confusion because we didn't think the look would take that long, and in the end, like, the whole team was painting flowers, dress, skin, everything.
What was amazing for me is when we turned up on the actual set location itself, the position that we chose to shoot the model right next door was a cafe that was called Frida Kahlo. Antigua is situated literally in a ring of volcanoes, and it's such a beautiful, picturesque little village. And then we had this lightning show over the top of the mountain, so it was kind of like a celebration at the end of the shoot, really.
The shot itself inspired us because it was so colorful. So on the street we had all these women that were selling the traditional fabrics, and we just had to buy these wonderfully colourful fabrics to take home with us. Our Guatemalan partner took us to this traditional restaurant, and they had these traditional masks and costumes, and they involved us dancing, and we could try some traditional food, so that made just the whole experience perfect. Like, the day ended perfectly with this getting to know the Guatemalan people and culture. We landed up in San Francisco and went straight to Lake Tahoe in Nevada, which was like a 5 hours drive.
When we decided on the locations in San Francisco, straight away it just screams cinema to me. Some of the most epic films are filmed in and around them locations, so I definitely had to do my version of a kind of sci-fi film character. The gills were created from Artex, the eyepieces were created from gelatins, and then you had the shimmer and event foundations and the cream liners on the skin to create that kind of alien pearlescent feel.
I love movies, so as soon as we got the mood boards for this one, I really wanted to go for it. So even down to the skeleton, the hair horns and shaping the wire and then using the hair. It was so important to get this to look literally like a scene out of a movie.
There's myths of different prehistoric creatures that live within Tahoe. So using that as my inspiration, and then the idea of cinema and TV with the film elements coming through, we created this kind of sci-fi character that just stepped out of a movie set, basically.
Yeah, so some great environments, great places to shoot from, but the best angle was in the water, so we just dove in.
This lake is like from a movie. It's just beautiful and magical. Having a subsidiary in San Francisco was the first step for Krallen to go global back in the 70s. For Krallen, it's a very important place.
Twin Peaks provides you with the best view of San Francisco. You see the entirety of the city. When I was reading about Twin Peaks, it was specifically chosen by Native Americans even to actually use as a viewing platform. The colour palette that I chose for this definitely reflected on my research into Native Americans and how they used natural products from the earth and from the mud and clays and soils. I used the living colour because it gave that depth of colour to the skin, but it wasn't going to look like a face paint. And then the solid black of the Aquacolor Plus to create the lines.
The styling for this look was inspired by tradition as well as fashion, so it was very editorial, taking inspiration from Native Americans but adding that new up-to-date twist.
So the Golden Gate Bridge is an iconic landmark everyone recognizes about San Francisco.
The bridge itself at night just kind of glows in the kind of darkness. It's so powerful to be there and see it. Love shooting and working with the UV products, and I used a combination of all of them, from the aqua colours to the soft creams and the colour sprays, all because they give different texture. Yeah, the conditions up on the viewing platform at Golden Gate Bridge were extreme. Freezing cold, the strongest winds, and pitch black. I was finalising the touch-ups of the makeup while the guys were setting up the equipment, so we had no light whatsoever. There was so much travelling, so many flights. By the time we was flying to Australia, it had begun to kind of slightly take its toll on us a little bit maybe. We was all a little bit more tired.
When we landed up in Melbourne, although we were exhausted, we were really excited to be able to go to Great Ocean Road.
They have some of the most beautiful coastlines in the world, and the colours and the richness of the rocks and the reflection in the sea from the sun, and it's so many colours that you see when you're watching the kind of waves coming, and how peaceful it is and how calming it is. So I wanted the makeup to reflect that. I wanted the colours to be a wash and a kind of fluidness rather than anything sharp or deep in tone. So using the lip glosses and things mixed in with the eyeshadows kind of gave that fluid motion across the eye, and I think we created a really peaceful image, which was how you feel when you're on these coastlines. It's just so calming.
The sea has such an energy. You just take in so much inspiration and energy from the nature.
We'd already decided not to shoot at Ayers Rock. We knew that it was against the beliefs of the Aboriginal people, and we wanted to be very respectful of that. But being such an iconic part of their culture and their history, it was important for us to kind of experience that.
In Australia, you get these epic sunsets, and at one point on our drive, we had to stop and just watch the sunset.
The look for the outback was designed directly from the cultures of how Aboriginals use markings on the body and the face to actually tell story and to celebrate. And a lot of them include this ceremonial marking of the body. Artex for me, for the outback, was one of the key products that I'm really, really pleased with. We used it to create the three-dimensional pieces on the forehead, covering it in glitter, giving it a stronger high fashion feel.
We were really lucky to visit Ayers Rock the day before the shoot, and there was this cave painting, and I just sat there and said to the team, I want to create a dress inspired by this cave painting. There was all handprints and finger paintings. I just love the fact that you could imagine this culture sitting there creating art.
So we decided to shoot in the outback because we were looking for that vastness which you just get in the outback, and also the red soil which stands for the outback.
You get a real sense for how vast Australia is as a country. It's just huge. And this particular place that we chose ended up being a particularly popular spot for sunset watchers, and it was nice to kind of share that moment with all of them, and then finally watching the sunset all together with a beer was a great way to end that day.
So Singapore is such a modern and vibrant city, but at the same time you have this very deep tradition.
The most important thing to show was the contrast of their culture, this extremely traditional, celebrated way of life with the absolute ultra modern, and it's just a beautiful marriage between the two, and that's what I wanted to show in this look. For this look, I loved using the gel effects. So we had the white powdered face that gives that kind of beautiful complexion, and then you've got the glossiness of the gel effects.
With the dress, I literally went to town. I sprayed it with colour sprays, I flicked nail varnish, I had so much fun. It was full of butterflies, there was plastic flowers, it was absolutely a celebration in a dress.
Shooting in Chinatown, especially in the time that we was there where they were celebrating a particular festival, it was just so busy. The traffic, the amount of people on the streets. It was so much fun shooting in Bali. It was a beautiful place, and you felt that in the people and in your surroundings. For something to look authentic as a tattoo is quite a big achievement really, but the products just make it so easy. The body illustrator and the skin liner, they just kind of have this matte opaque look that kind of, it almost looks like it sits beneath the skin, and that gives you that kind of illusion of it being real. Most makeup is designed to obviously sit on top of the skin and enhance feature, but this kind of, it almost looks as if it sits underneath the surface layer, and that's how we achieve that kind of authentic look.
We thought that the rice fields would come out really nicely in an image because of the bright intensity of the green color, and that would be a great contrast to the look itself.
All the local children kind of gathered around and they was watching and really interested, and they found it so fun. I'm sure it's something that they don't see every day. The story look for South Africa was literally based on Earth and Mother Nature and how all of them things come together to create a look. It was quite a strange experience, like the actual safari side of it and seeing the animals and driving through the plains, because I didn't expect to feel so kind of emotional about it. It was just such a beautiful experience.
For South Africa, we decided to go for a totally different mood in the image. We actually decided for a sunrise, which we have never done before.
So the reasons why we chose the hair to make the dress and the bones to make the headpiece, and used blood on the eye to give it that kind of shiny gloss, and kept it really kind of earthy and natural warm tones. Everything that you basically see on the plains of Africa. I wanted to kind of get a really glossy eye. The richness of the HD blood that we used really was perfect to keep the like red pigment.
When it came to the hair, I was really inspired by an African tribe who actually wrap their hair in clay. So I actually dreadlocked using crepe hair, some pieces, and then we painted it to look like clay.
Our South African team just made this shoot so easy, and they were just wonderful to work with.
Dubai itself is an incredibly futuristic city, and it's just surrounded by a vast desert. Within half an hour you can be in the middle of sand dunes. Shooting in the desert really was challenging. We prepared the model in the back of the car because we didn't want the heat to affect the makeup too much before we started shooting. This look itself was inspired by the book 1001 Nights. Colour represents different meanings across all different cultures, and in this case the shocking blue that you see in the eye makeup and the dress actually represents loyalty, affection and devotion.
Before this trip, we were just colleagues.
But now we're really good friends.
Being on all these locations with these amazing people just made the calendar for us personally perfect.
I mean, although it was such hard work, we had so many personal and inspiring and happy moments with each other.
This project has been one of the most enriching experiences that I've ever had. Just taking something from every single place we visited.
I just can't even begin to tell you what an amazing experience, and to share it with such a great team.
I think it made the world feel a lot smaller. You just see all these cultures and all these people. You know, we're not all separate kind of races and cultures and religions. We're kind of one unit, really.
No time, rewind. Where's the warming voice of me? The hands of winter here to stay. Brother, don't be afraid. 'Cause it's nature's way. us on and on and on we're going on. Push the boundaries back again. Cross the line we drew in vain. Let the breath blow us away. So long, so long, so long, so long. Losing consciousness alone. The hanging branches